Good morning, good afternoon, students. This is Miss Downing, and it's time for math class. I actually prepared a mini math lesson here for you guys. So go ahead and pause this video if you do not have a piece of paper or your notebook or a pencil. Okay, so let's just pretend like we are in class, and we learn best when we take notes and study them. So my plan is for you to not just watch this video, but also take some notes, okay? Of course, you can rewind, pause, fast forward as much as you need to, but join me by taking notes, okay? The title of our lesson today is Multiplying Fractions by a Whole Number. So let's look at our first problem. Our first problem is 5 times 3/4. And our first strategy or technique we're going to use to solve this is A times B over C. Notice that A is pink, just like 5, because A represents 5. Notice that B is green, just like our numerator 3 over here. So 3 is B. And C is our denominator 4. So I'm going to rewrite this. So step 1 is to rewrite it using a formula. So I have 5 times 3 over 4. Step 2, I'm going to multiply 5 times 3, which gives me 15. And again, I'm not doing anything to my denominator because we're talking about fourths. That's what we're talking about. So we don't need to change that because we don't want to change how many parts are in each whole. Okay? So now we have 15/4. Notice I have a check mark because 15/4 is our first answer. But notice that it is improper. So I can change that by changing it to a mixed number. How do I change 15/4 to a mixed number? I'm going to divide my fourths into 15. So notice I'm going to change that to a mixed number by dividing 4 into 15. So I'm able to make, count by fours, 4, 8, 12, 16. However, 16 is more than 15, so I was only able to make 3 groups of 4. So that's why my 3 is here. And that leaves me with 3/4 left over. So I also have a check mark here because this is also my answer. Notice my visual here at the bottom. As soon as my camera stops doing that. All right. So I have written out 15/4, you guys. Notice that how many fourths are in a whole? Well, there's 4/4. So every time I count 4/4, I've circled it to represent one whole. So I have 3 circles here, and I look at the end, and I'm left with 3/4 left over. So that's what happened when I went from an improper fraction to a mixed number. Okay, we're going to look at the same problem again, but with a different technique. This time, we're using the strategy A over 1 times B over C. And the reason why I have this A over 1 here is because I'm changing 5 to a fraction. And how do I do that? I just simply write 1 underneath it. And that's what I've done here. I rewrote A over 1 as 5 over 1. And I rewrote B over C as 3 over 4. Okay, then I'm going to multiply the numerators. 5 times 3, which is 15. And I'm going to multiply the denominators. 1 times 4, which is 4. And again, I have a check mark here because that is my first answer. But I can keep going by simplifying 15/4. And I'm going to change it to 3 3/4. Okay? Now let's look at a new problem. 8 times 2/3. Okay? And the first part of this strategy, again, I'm using A times B over C. And I'm going to ask you these questions. What is A? It's 8. What is B? It's 2. And what is C? It's 3. So I rewrote it using my formula. Now I'm going to multiply 8 times 2, which gives me 16. Again, my denominator stays the same. It is 3. Okay, now I'm going to divide 3 into 16. If I was writing out 16 groups of thirds here, remember how many thirds make one whole? So every time I would count 3/3, I would circle them. And when I do that, I would be able to circle 5. That's the closest that I'm going to get to 16/3. Okay, 5 represents 15 groups of thirds. So that leaves me with 1/3 left over. Okay. Now, same problem, But now I'm using the formula A over 1 times B over C. Okay? Notice that I switched my A to an 8, and I put 1 underneath it, and I'm multiplying B and C, which is 2/3. Again, I'm going to multiply my numerators. 8 times 2 equals 16. And my denominators, 1 times 3 equals 3. Okay? 16/3, what is 16 divided by 3? Okay, I'm able to make 5 groups of 3 out of that 16. That leaves me with just 1/3 left. Okay, because 5 groups of thirds represents 15/3. So that leaves me with 1/3 left over. And last but not least, this is our last strategy that you can use when multiplying a fraction by a whole number is simply repeated addition. Notice that I'm using the problem 5 times 3/4 again. And all you have to do is write out those 3/4 5 times. Again, we only we add the numerators. So I'm adding 3 5 times, and it's going to give me 15. Again, we don't change the number of parts in each whole, so my denominator is 4. Check mark for that, and then I'm going to change it to a mixed number, okay? 3 3/4. Okay? So hopefully you're taking some good notes. Remember, you can pause this video whenever you feel it's necessary to do it. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to the back. And we're going to, using the same, our title is still the same. We're multiplying fractions by a whole number, but we're looking at it through word problems. So number 4 says a cookie factory puts 3/4 of a barrel of flour into each batch of cookies. How much flour will the factory use for 3 batches? I did my best here to give you guys a visual. Okay, I have 3 circles that represents the 3 batches. And inside each batch is 3/4 of flour. My question says, how much flour will the factory use for 3 batches? I'm going to multiply 3 times 3/4. And I'm going to use my A times B over C. So that's why I wrote 3 times 3 over 4. Okay, now I'm going to multiply 3 times 3, which is 9 over 4. Check mark there because that is my first answer, but it is improper, so I can simplify it by writing it as a mixed fraction. So I have 9/4. I can make 2 whole groups of fourths out of that 9/4, so that makes 8/4, and that leaves me with 1/4 left over. So my answer is also 2 1/4. Okay, let's look at number 5. Jane and Riley each made a bowl of punch. Riley used 7 times as much lemonade as Jane did. If Jane used 2/3 of a cup of lemonade, how many cups of lemonade did Riley use? Okay, that 7 times as much is a giveaway because we know we're multiplying there. Okay, so that's why my problem is set up as 7 times 2/3. This time I use the A over 1 times B over C. So I'm going to multiply my numerators. 7 times 2 equals 14. And my denominators, 1 times 3 equals 3. Check mark because 14/3 is my first answer. Or I can simplify it by changing it to a mixed number and dividing 3 into 14. Okay, I'm able to make 4 whole groups out of that amount with just 2/3 left over. Okay, so both of those answers are correct. Okay. How are you guys feeling? I hope you guys are realizing, oh, I can do this. Thank you, Miss Downing. I hope that's how you're feeling right now. I hope it's not feeling overwhelming or difficult. I mean, you got a lot of practice planned for you this week. So I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about it. Let's look at number 6. Linda went to the candy store and bought 7 pounds of candy. If 1/2 of Linda's candy was chocolate, how many pounds of chocolate candy did Linda buy? Okay? Notice that I didn't write anything here. I'm going to let you guys solve this on your own, using your notes, using this video. And then when I see you this Monday or Thursday, we can talk about the answer there. All right, good luck, you guys. Practice, practice, practice. All right, talk to you soon.